The United States of America has given up all semblance of greatness to a man, the collective consciousness of the people, elected a guy by the name of Donald J. Trump to make America great again. You don't live in the future. You live in the present. You were the arbiters of goodwill bestowed upon you by every country in this world back after the Second World War, at the end of the Second World War, when the United States became the reserve currency of the world. You were the arbiters of goodwill, and that was bestowed upon you, and you have taken advantage of that privilege. So let's look at the meaning of arbiter, because the question you really need to ask is, deliver thyself from evil? Just change the words. Deliver thyself from ignorance. Deliver thyself from ignorance. Arbiter is a person or entity empowered to judge a dispute, settle a disagreement, or make a final decision. This was bestowed upon the United States of America at the end of the Second World War. This was a privilege to be cherished. And what have you done? You follow the whims of a wannabe gangster. He may in his own mind believe he's doing well. He's always believed in tariffs. But the fact of the matter is you had Bretton Woods. And what is Bretton Woods? Bretton Woods was an agreement back at the end of the Second World War that allowed for the U.S. to have the reserve currency of the world. At that time, you had an option put on the table by John Maynard Keynes to go to a Bancor system for trade. And why is that relevant and why is that important? Because every empire has lost their empire because of trade deficits, because your currency becomes the currency and the reserve currency of the world. And this is what creates the problem. That's why John Maynard Keynes wanted to create a Bancor system that was separate and was dealt with separately from currency in the monetary markets. But because America was not in the trade deficits like it is now in the present, it took a position to create its advantage, what it felt was its advantage. So everything the United States has done up to this point in time has been an abuse of privilege. And this is what you have to understand, because the arbiters of goodwill was bestowed upon the United States, which meant conflict resolution in legal and business contexts. And the monetary system and how it's structured has given you that privilege. Congress and laws has given you that privilege. And you've abused that privilege. Now, authority of taste or style. You've had the ability to change things, to change the financial system for your benefit, instead of making it much more fair and balanced. Or you could have dealt with the monetary system in a balanced manner, and whatever instrument needed to deal with conflict resolution could be done in a balanced manner. So the other factor of being the arbiter of goodwill is you're the referee or the umpire. And it's as simple as that. As simple as that. So now I'm going to move to Charlie Angus, because he makes a great point here. Make a great point? Yes, he makes a great point.
So 90% of the world's trade in currency day to day is in U.S. dollars.
You hear that? 90% of the U.S. of trade around the world, it's in U.S. dollars. You've been given that privilege. You've abused that privilege. So you've taken greatness. You were already what you were. And now instead of being stoic and walking down the street with your head high, you've allowed your egos to be given, your power to be given to a guy by the name of Donald Trump. It's been percolating for a long time because the Supreme Court of the United States, it's corrupt. Everything's been corrupted. There's various reasons why, whether it be religion or otherwise. But you have to remember, in the modern society, Even the judiciary has gone from the canon law, which is the law of the church, to a common law, which is the law of the people. And it's up to us, the people, to balance these factors. Power is with the people, but when a few people are manipulating to be able to oppress and suppress population, you have to question what is going on. You don't need to get violence because we're not living in a Darwinian ideology. Many scientists will tell you Darwinian ideology, survival of the fittest, is the human being. But that's not true. The human being is much different. You can start acting like a human being with benevolence, harmony, and compassion and abundance, or you can go back to this pain and suffering. It's really just a construct. Once you understand money and how the money works through the system and how it is created to work through the system and that construct, you know you can change the framework to help everybody. Let's go back to Charlie Angus here.
That's because if Japan wants to buy Saudi Arabian oil, they're not going to send them the yen and then get the money back and what's left over in oil or money from the Saudis. They're going to buy it in U.S. currency. All countries will secure U.S. currency in order to make international trade. So it's made the United States dollar the arbiter of international trade in a way that is completely unprecedented. But then there's other tools that the U.S. have economically to get their way in the world, which is that if you want to trade massive amounts of money, you need to do it through one of two systems. One is the chip system, which is the clearinghouse payment system, or the federal Fedwire system. If the United States cuts you off from either of those, well, they say it's like trying to travel the world without a passport. Good luck. The other element that they have is the Office of Foreign Asset Controls, which can be utilized under the United States Emergency Economic Powers Act. And so that gives the president, not Congress, the president, enormous tools to target enemies. Could be narco gangs. It could be the Russians.
Yeah, but here's the other thing. It gives the president the power to create the illusion by manifesting, by creating a problem that doesn't exist, but by creating that problem, he can use those Emergency Powers Act to issue tariffs against every country around the world. Like, this tariff situation is nonsense. Once you understand the whole thing of why this guy Trump since 1980s loved tariffs, because you're not using a Bancor system to deal with tariffs, a separate system to deal, not tariffs, but to deal with trade around the world. So the system is flawed. You, the Americans, helped create the flawed system. You, the Americans, with the rest of the world collectively, can change that flawed system. But instead, you've taken the path of the bigger club, their Darwinian ideology of living, which is climbing on the back of others, survival of the fittest. That is not the creed of the human being. Same as Bitcoin. Bitcoin's being used to launder money for criminals, move money around so that people can't know what's going on. The average Joe, because of the Genius Act and the stable coin setup, is being abused. The Treasury of the United States for stable coins is going to pay for it. But if you look at Bitcoin, it's just a way to move money around. All the rest is speculation, just utter nonsense. This is how criminals have laundered money and criminal proceeds around the world. Been going on for a long, long time, ever since Bitcoin was created. Bitcoin is a virtual blockchain. It really has no inherent value on its own, other than the speculative value you've given it. So we've created a way for the average Joe to think he can make himself rich, so actual money goes into it, so that the criminals and the criminal proceeds of crime can move around the world. And you've allowed that. You got a president that is supported by loyalists to make sure that that can happen. But here's the real thing. This guy's a wannabe criminal that's gotten into this position. You got to feel sorry for him. You really have to feel sorry for him because he's an illiterate. He's a functioning illiterate. and he does not understand cause and effect. That's why he rips up a deal with Iran and just bombs with the Israelis, kills people. They do that to Gaza. They do that to Lebanon. They do it indiscriminately, without compunction. They claim it's for security, this and that. But violence begets violence. When are you going to learn? You just got to stop it. Treat people with respect and dignity. You'd be surprised what can change. But it's going to take some time. So now you've oppressed and suppressed the world now. You've got a military that has no conscience. They're just doing what they're ordered to do, as other militaries have throughout the history of the modern mankind that we know. First World War, Second World War, and this other rubbish that's going on in the Middle East and in Russia and Ukraine because of the Russians, imperialist, capitalist way of living. It makes no sense. You can state otherwise, but it makes no sense because all it means is you've agreed to pain and suffering. You've agreed to pain and suffering. When you can make that choice right now to yourself, to be kind to yourself, to be kind to your neighbor, and be kind to everybody else. Move into benevolence, harmony, balance, and abundance. And the other thing, you've created enemies. And it's a construct. It's created. You created it. Iran was turning into a democracy in 1953. United States and Britain financed a coup to put the Shah into power. The Shah was in power. He oppressed the people so much that they revolted with Khomeini, the Ayatollah, to overthrow the Shah. And then you blame Jimmy Carter, the president. You're always just playing the blame game. You created the problem, but you don't take responsibility for what you create. And this is the real issue. You say 47 years in Iran. They've been, just like any civilization, they're trying to survive. Israel, for over 10 years, has been financing Hamas to splinter, divide, and conquer the Palestinian PLA. Hamas was financed by the Netanyahu government. There's no reason for this stuff to go on. It's nonsensical. Cultural revolution in China. Now you have a Han dynasty. Kind of a new twist on the Pacific Rim situation. But let me ask you a question. Since the Cultural Revolution, has the communist China invaded Taiwan? No. Could they? Yes. But now you've got a situation where it's interesting. The Politburo of the communist China is very interesting because right now, and since the Second World War, you've had a situation where the North American economy has grown by an average of 2.5 to 2.7%. Meanwhile, China has been averaging 5.8% growth, which means that China will end up being financially stronger than the United States or anywhere else in the world just because of that, because of a hybrid system. You think your capitalist system is best, but yet you do this trickle-down effect, Thatcherism, Reaganism, which has oppressed and suppressed your people. It's actually suppressed and oppressed your growth as a civilization and the technology overall that can help everybody. For a select few to just feed off the power of being overlords of others. Be quite frank with you, you'll go to China, the technology and the way that people are able to live in their cities, in the urban areas, very different from what you've been led to believe. American corporations created this situation with a trade deficit with China. This is why China has become such a leader in technology, because American corporations, to have a rentier class, to sit on a couch in the United States of America, get corporate dividends, and live off interest payments. So you create the problem, then you claim you've got a solution for the problem, and then you just deny. So you play the villain, you play the victim, and then you play the hero. Villain, victim, hero. And you don't realize you're playing each one of those roles, and everybody else has to go through pain and suffering to satisfy your collective consciousness where woe be me. Get out of this woe be me kind of stuff. It's utter crap. Get away from this pain and suffering. Learn to work with people. Learn to communicate. Not everything's going to go your way, but don't get emotionally attached to it, because the end goal of benevolence, harmony, empathy, compassion, and abundance is true richness. That is the true wealth of the human race versus this pain and suffering and the construct of money guiding your consciousness. Come on, folks. You can wake up. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's more like harmony. Pain and suffering, thinking one race is better than another race. One religion's better than another religion. What's that? Contrasting, comparing? Contrast, compare. You do that with your neighbors. All for material wealth. You're going to take that with you? Doesn't go with you. Forget about that. It'll be measured how you act in that lifetime. What you did in that lifetime. Not with what you can't take with you when you leave this experience. So, you can make a decision. Pain and suffering, benevolence, harmony, and abundance. You can make that decision. It's really as simple as that. Dang, is it really? Yes, it is. So love and peace to everyone. Take care. Questions, comments, throw in the comments section. You gotta question this. Who will be asking the questions? Take care. Ciao for now.